There's a quiet idea from Japan called Shirinyoku forest bathing. Not hiking, not camping, not even exercising, just being in the forest, immersing yourself in it, letting it surround you, no performance, no productivity, just being there. I'd read about it before, how Japanese researchers found that time in forests can reduce stress hormones, lower blood pressure, and improve mood. It sounded simple enough, but to be honest, I didn't expect much from it. It felt like another wellness trend repackaged for overworked people in cities, searching for a break they didn't know how to take. Still, something about it stuck with me. Maybe I'd just been too tired to notice the world around me. Not in the way children do, looking, touching, pausing. Nature, for me, had become a blur out the window, something I passed by on the way to doing something else. So I decided to give the so-called forest bathing a try. One morning, I drove out to a small patch of forest near the edge of town. I left my phone in the car. No music, no camera, no agenda. Just 2 feet on dirt and an open hour ahead of me. The forest doesn't need an audience. The first thing you notice in the forest is how little you matter. Not in a negative, existential way, but in a very neutral, almost mathematical sense. Trees don't care who you are. The wind doesn't pause when you walk by. Everything just continues. You don't interrupt it. You're not the main character here. You're not even a side plot. You're simply there, a passing presence. This is unusual for most of us. We're used to being part of environments that respond to us. Online, everything is tailored, recommended, filtered. At work, our tasks revolve around our name. At home, our space reflects who we are. But out here, there is no feedback loop. You don't receive any validation. The forest doesn't respond to you. Oddly enough, this is freeing. You don't have to be anything here. Not productive. Not interesting. Not improving yourself. You're not observed, not judged, not expected to participate in a certain way. You're just there quietly like everything else. There's no signal here, and that includes your inner one. We spend so much time connected that we forget what it feels like to be disconnected, not just from the internet, but from the constant inner loop of expectations. In the forest, that loop starts to dissolve. You begin by noticing things. The way the light filters through the branches. The way certain leaves move while others stay still. The different shades of green, the dampness of bark. The sound of your footsteps on old layered soil. None of it is extraordinary. But none of it is boring either, it just is. And that, strangely enough, your mind slows down. You're not solving problems. You're not planning the rest of your week. You're just there. It's not a meditative trance. You're still you, just with less noise. You start to feel your shoulders lower, your jaw unclench, your breathing lengthen, and maybe, for the first time in a while, you realize how much tension you carry when you're constantly inside. Man-made environments, physical, digital, or psychological, rest without purpose. Something happens when you sit down on a rock or a patch of moss and let yourself stop moving. Not to catch your breath, not because you're tired, just to sit. No scrolling, no checking the time, no thinking about how long you'll stay. At first, your brain protests. It wants something to do. It tries to narrate the moment, find meaning in it, extract something useful. That instinct to make use of time is deeply wired in most of us. But if you stay still long enough, something clicks. You remember that it's okay to rest without earning it. You don't need to finish a project to deserve a break. You don't need to accomplish anything in order to sit still. You don't have to justify why you want to pause. The forest doesn't ask for a reason. And maybe we've forgotten how important that is. A space where nothing is required of you. The forest doesn't care about time the way we do. A tree might take 50 years to fully grow. Another 50 to decay. The forest lives on a timeline that makes ours look almost ridiculous. It isn't hurrying. It isn't late. It isn't anxious about what comes next. Compare that to how we operate. We measure everything, hours, progress, goals, milestones. Our days are chopped into productive slots. Our worth often measured by what we've done lately. But nature doesn't operate on these rules. When you're in the forest, you're briefly pulled out of the human calendar. There's no sense of urgency. Time still passes, the light shifts, the air cools, but there's no countdown. And in that slower time, things begin to settle. Not because you're trying to fix anything, but because you stop trying to control everything. You stop optimizing your mood. You stop calculating the value of the moment. You stop trying to be a better version of yourself. You just exist. Like the trees do. This isn't a cure, it's a pause. Let's be honest, walking in the woods doesn't solve your problems. Your work stress will still be there. So will your inbox, your bills, your tangled relationships. But something changes, not in the problems, but in your relationship with them. You start to see them as part of a bigger system, not the whole system. In our usual world, every problem feels central. Every failure feels defining. Every decision feels permanent. But the forest gives you scale. You realize how many things are unfolding at once, most of them without human involvement. You are not the system. You're not even the central processor. You're a participant, one small temporary part of a much wider cycle. That perspective can be grounding, not in a lofty, abstract way, but in a simple physical one. Your problems don't disappear, but they shift, they soften, they lose some of their sharpness. Sometimes all you need is distance, not to escape, but to recalibrate. You are not separate from the natural world. It's easy to think of nature as something out there. A destination, a retreat, a nice idea. But being in the forest reminds you of something quiet but important. You're not separate from this. You're not just visiting. You're part of the system too. You are nature, just dressed in modern clothing. Your thoughts, your breath, your body, they follow rhythms too. Rest, motion, hunger, calm. You forget that when you're staring at screens all day. You forget it when your to-do list grows longer than your sleep hours. But in the forest, you remember. And that remembering, however brief, has value. You don't need to romanticize it. You don't need to post about it. You just need to feel it once in a while. 2 minutes is enough. You didn't stay in the forest for long. Maybe half an hour in total. But it was those 2 minutes, the ones where you sat on a fallen log and just stopped, that mattered. You wasn't thinking. You wasn't problem solving. You wasn't hoping to be changed. You just let yourself be quiet, without editing the moment in your head. And it was enough. Not in a dramatic, cinematic way. Not in a my life was never the same way. Just enough to breathe deeper. Enough to see more clearly. Enough to not feel like I needed to keep performing. Those 2 minutes reminded me of something that seems so simple it almost sounds silly. You are allowed to rest. Without condition. Without achievement. Without explanation. Final thought, maybe it's not healing we're missing, maybe it's simplicity. We live in a world that asks a lot of us. Attention, output, opinions, updates. Even our rest is structured. Even our hobbies come with metrics. We try to heal. But healing itself becomes another item on the list. Something to get done. Improved, optimized. But Shirinyoku doesn't ask for any of that. It's not a challenge. It's not a belief system. It's not even a wellness routine. It's just you, in a forest, doing nothing, and letting that be enough. No hashtags, no enlightenment, no measurable outcome. Just a pause, a reset. A brief moment of remembering that you're human, with a nervous system that wasn't designed for this much noise. And if all you do is sit quietly in the woods for 2 minutes and breathe, that might be the most honest thing you do all day. Thank you for listening, subscribe and like.